You don't think the Jets should have benched him?
No, Andrew, I don't. And, you know, to me, I liken it to a situation I was in with the New York Giants. And we were a playoff team after 9 games. They decided to move to Eli Manning. There was no question that I was the better quarterback at that time, that Eli probably wasn't ready for that position. But they took the approach that we're trying to build this thing so when all the other parts are ready to win a championship, our quarterback is ready to win a championship. I look at the Jets very similarly. Yes, they have a good football team. Yes, they're a playoff team right now. But I don't think anybody thinks they're going to push for a championship this year when you look at the AFC. So to me, the bottom line is we got to figure out, A, is this quarterback championship material? And we've got to get him ready for that when the rest of the team we feel comes together at a championship level. There's no doubt that Zach Wilson is not ready, to be that franchise guy yet with the way that he's playing on the football field. But it takes time. There's a lot of young quarterbacks in the same situation that aren't ready for that as well. And so I believe they should have stayed with him. Yes, they were going to have to smooth some things over. And let me just mention that in the press conference is that there's kind of 2 unwritten rules in the locker room. And one everybody's talked about is that it's always your fault, right? When, there's issues, when there's struggles, it's always your fault. When there's praise, you deflect it to everyone else. But another unwritten rule is that we don't divide the locker room. It's never us against them, meaning offense against defense. If somebody comes up and asks you, hey, did the offense let you down? Of course, you're never going to say yes. You're going to say we're in this together. So I just wonder, we haven't heard from Zach. Could he maybe have been saying, no, there's no issues. I didn't feel like I let the team down or the offense let the team down. Simply saying, we're in this together. Yes, I wanted to play better. Yes, we wanted to play better, and we have to play better. But don't try to divide us. We're in this thing together, and we've got to battle through some of these struggles as one unit and not with any kind of division.
All right, I hear you on I don't think they're winning a championship with Flacco or Mike White. I totally get it. But they have a top 10 defense, and I'm not Rich Eisen, I'm not Dan Hanzus, I'm not the Jets fans in the buildings, but let me push back. Kurt, they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. Just the chance to get in the tournament. Doesn't Saleh owe it to the locker room just to try to get in?
Andrew, this is a tough one. Again, when I was in New York, we were a playoff team the day that I got benched. I had a number of veterans that looked at it the same way. Like, I'm not here for the future. I'm looking at right now because we have an opportunity to get to the playoffs right now. And you never know because we've seen it. Teams that we didn't think would go on a run to the Super Bowl, get to the playoffs, and they make a run to the Super Bowl. So that was definitely a part of what was going on in the locker room. But we also have to understand that teams are building for championships. They're trying to find that guy behind center that can lead them there, but they've got to see a big picture too. And so it's really hard because you're not really sacrificing the other guys and saying, hey, we're not thinking about you. We're only thinking about our quarterback in 3 years from now. You're trying to take all of the information at hand and say, what is the best thing for us right now? What kind of team do we have right now? What's the best thing for us right now? And what's the best thing for us 3 years from now? And you have to figure out the best decision. The New York Giants said, we're not ready now, but we want our quarterback ready when we're ready. We saw that play out, and they won 2 championships with Eli Manning. And that was the approach that they take. I understand. There's lots of guys in the locker room that may not be there 2 or 3 years from now and want to win right now. But the organization also has a responsibility to look to the future.
It is a fascinating conversation. I have no doubt it will be continued when we see you on game day morning coming up tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to you and Brenda, the family. Thank you, Kurt Warner. Let's move on to Tampa. The Bucs, like Kurt, back from Germany. Unlike Kurt, had the week off, and they are back at it this week. Sunday as division leaders against the Browns.
We're 5-5. It's not obviously a great record, but could be worse, could be better. Doesn't really matter. Our whole season's ahead of us, and we got to go out there and we got to play well. And if we do it, we'll feel good about what happens. If we don't, we'll feel very disappointed. So it's all ahead of us. It's going to be up to us what we make this season, and it starts this week.
It starts this week in Cleveland against the Browns. Hi there, Sarah Walsh, also back from Germany and live now from Tampa, where the Bucs hope they brought a ground game. Sarah, back from Germany and cleared customs with that.
That ground game has been missing all season long. They've been historically bad, so there's no sugarcoating what this ground game has looked like. But in Germany, the Bucs rushed for 161 yards, and it's like saying to this franchise that it was like a 500-yard rushing game, considering how much they've struggled there. Now, I asked Tom Brady, they had that bye week, but there's some folks that think like, well, did that stop the momentum? And I said, how important was it to have the momentum of this ground game, especially going into Cleveland, where Brady says they're going to have to run it because they know that there could be inclement weather. And Brady said it's super important. And he said not just the momentum for that, but he said what they did in Germany is something that they have to do every week. They rushed the ball 44 times. That is unheard of for this Buccaneers team, but you saw the results that it produced. Now, there is, I don't want to say controversy, but there's some questions at running back because Todd Bowles was asked about how he would split those carries between Leonard Fournette, the rookie Rachaad White. He said they're going to ride whoever has the hot hand. However, Leonard Fournette right now has a bit of a hip issue that happened in Germany, and Bowles characterized him as pretty sore. He said, we'll see how that goes. If he can go, he can go. If he's still really sore on Sunday, he wouldn't go. As for the Bucs rush defense, well, that was greatly improved. They currently ranked 15th in this league, which is also unheard of for a team that always stops the run. Well, they allowed the Seahawks to rush it for just 39 yards, incredibly low. They know, however, that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are going to want to come off and do better than they did last week, because they certainly did not have their best rushing performances. So this Bucs team is very much prepared for that. One question mark there. Vita Vea showed up on the injury report today, didn't practice, and Todd Bowles says that they're going to see how he progresses as well. He's got a foot injury, Andrew, and there's no understating how important he is to this Buccaneers defense.
All right, as they head to Cleveland to face the Browns and Jacoby Brissett's final start before Deshaun Watson is scheduled to return next week. Thank you, Sarah Walsh, there live in Tampa. You know who leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns? That guy. How do the Bills slow down that guy?
Why this is different. I'm not comparing Zach Wilson to Joe Burrow. I am definitely not. But when Burrow was in his second year, the Bengals were bad. So they could just have him be out there, show some flashes. Obviously, he got injured the second year, but show some flashes and just kind of withstand it. A lot of other young, talented quarterbacks. I would say Trevor Lawrence, same thing. Jaguars are fine with him kind of doing some great things and some not some great things because their record isn't good. The Jets have an opportunity to make the playoffs and potentially win. Their roster is that good, so they just can't they can't deal with Zach Wilson learning on the fly because they need to win.
Yeah, I believe Robert Saleh when he says that Zach Wilson is going to quarterback for the Jets again this season. The question is, will that reset that he gets be enough to stop throwing 5 feet over guys' heads and wide? And, you know, the knock on him sort of last year was he was kind of coming into the NFL trying to take the big shots all the time instead of running the offense and not taking the checkdowns. Well, he tried to take the checkdowns the other day, and he was misfiring on those. So that's what Saleh means when he needs to work on those things, and saying it's not fair to work on those things while preparing for the game. It's really about, look, he needs to work on those things. He's got to step away from playing. We're in a playoff race. We're trying to maintain our credibility in the locker room, which is the best guys should be playing to give us the best chance to play in the postseason. So that's what's happening there. Is Mike White going to light the world on fire, much as every Jet fan probably thinks he will? I don't think it's going to be sustained and consistent enough to keep Zach Wilson on the bench. So, yes, I believe Wilson will return to the starting lineup at some point this year. But right now, he's got to take a step back and figure out how to get rid of, I don't want to say it again because I don't want to put it in his head as if he's watching, the yips.
The yips, meaning missing the easy ones, missing the layups. You made the Chuck Knobloch for baseball fans analogy earlier, meaning second baseman who can't throw to first.
Steve Weish, who's sitting right there, told me to say Mackey Sasser because Ian's a Mets fan. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
There it is.
I remember
Ian?
Mackey Sasser. Yeah,
Remember?
very sad. Ruined his career.
He was a catcher.
Oh, I remember. I remember.
Others have mentioned Steve Sachs, like here, Dodger fans here
It's
would
another
stay.
famous one.
Steve Sachs. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. We're not talking Steve Sachs. We're talking Zach Wilson. The numbers aren't good. I mean, there's no real way to sugarcoat it. I think the easiest way to say this, and kind of putting a bow on what Ian was saying, the Jets got there before Zach Wilson did. Right? The Jets are ready to win right now. And they're winning now, Mark Ross, Bucky Brooks. Mark, despite Zach Wilson, which was fine. But when you're losing partly because of Zach, then you have to, Mark, make a switch. But Robert Saleh said today that the podium thing, saying he didn't let the team down, didn't factor in this. You don't buy that.
No, not at all. And there's two aspects of this. The on the field, where